Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a very beautiful girl. She was so lovely that anyone who saw her had to stop and look again. Her name was Cinderella. Cinderella lost her mother when she was very young. She could not even remember her mother's warm hugs. Her father loved her very much. He was a kind and gentle man who always tried his best to make Cinderella happy, so she would not feel lonely. But this happiness did not last long. One day, Cinderella's father decided to marry again. He hoped that his new wife would help take care of the home and become a friend to Cinderella, but he did not know that this decision would bring the hardest days of Cinderella's life. From the very first moment they met, the new stepmother looked at Cinderella with cold, unfriendly eyes. Her two daughters were no better. They were rude, selfish, and jealous. When they saw Cinderella's beauty and her kind heart, jealousy grew inside them like a dark shadow. Day by day, that jealousy grew bigger and bigger. Soon, it filled the whole house. One morning, Cinderella's father had to leave on a long work trip. He hugged her gently and said, "I will come back soon." Cinderella smiled, but deep inside, she felt something strange and worrying. And sadly, her fear came true the moment the door closed behind her father. The stepmother slowly walked towards Cinderella. Her footsteps were cold and sharp, like she was planning something cruel. She spoke in a hard, icy voice. "From today on, you will live in the attic. You will do all the housework, and I don't want to see you wearing those clothes anymore." Cinderella froze. She could not believe that the woman who had just become her mother could be so cruel. She wanted to say something, but no words came out. So she lowered her head and obeyed. That night, she quietly packed her things and climbed up to the dusty attic. It was dark, cold, and lonely, a place no one wanted to live. But for Cinderella, it became her new home. From that day forward, her work never stopped. She cleaned the floors, washed the clothes, cooked meals, and did every chore in the house. Meanwhile, the stepmother and two stepsisters only sat around, giving orders and complaining, as if Cinderella was not a person, but a servant. "Clean it again. The floor is still dirty. Where is my dress? Did you wash it yet?" Their angry voices echoed every single day. Cinderella could only smile sadly. No one in the house cared about her feelings. Her only friends were the tiny birds in the garden and the cute mice that visited her window each night to cheer her up. Day after day, time passed slowly. Cold and lonely nights came and went. But deep in her heart, Cinderella kept one small light alive. Hope. Hope that one day, something would change. Hope that a miracle would come and bring a new beginning to her life. The hard and tiring days continued, until one morning, the whole town suddenly became loud and excited. People ran out to the streets, each holding shiny little papers. Trumpets sounded from the castle, making everyone curious, even Cinderella. A royal soldier stepped onto a high platform and announced loudly, "The prince will hold a grand ball at the palace. All unmarried girls are invited." The whole town burst into cheers and happiness. At home, Cinderella's two stepsisters screamed with joy. "Oh my gosh, the prince is choosing a wife. It has to be me." Their stepmother looked at her daughters with proud, ambitious eyes. "You two will be the most beautiful girls at the ball. The prince will surely notice you." Right away, the three of them rushed to prepare. They chose the best fabrics, made dresses, tried on shoes, and practiced makeup. The house was filled with excitement that only they were allowed to enjoy. Cinderella stood quietly and watched. Inside her heart, a strange feeling slowly grew. A little bit of longing, a little bit of hope, and a very small dream. "I wish I could go too." A few days later, when everything was almost ready, Cinderella gently asked, "Mother, may I go to the ball too?" They said all the girls are invited. All three of them turned around. Then, they burst out laughing. Her stepmother looked at her from head to toe and said with a mocking voice, "You think you can walk into the palace wearing that? The prince is looking for a wife, not a servant." The stepsisters laughed even louder. "Look at yourself, Cinderella. Do you plan to wear that dusty dress and walk beside us?" The cruel words hit Cinderella's heart like sharp knives. But the worst part still had not come. That night, when the two sisters were ready to leave, the stepmother turned to Cinderella with cold, icy eyes. "So you want to go, do you?" then finish all the housework before we return. She locked the door behind them, leaving Cinderella alone in the dark house. When the three of them got into the carriage and rode away, Cinderella's smile slowly faded, leaving only an empty, quiet silence. She looked out the window and saw the lights from the castle shining in the night sky. She whispered softly, "If my parents were still alive, things would be different." And in the still darkness, her tears began to fall. Cinderella sat beside the dying fireplace and cried into her hands. Not because she wanted to be a princess, not because her clothes were old or ugly, but because her small dream, to be free just for one night, had been crushed without mercy. She did not know. At the moment she felt most hopeless, something magical was already on its way. Inside the dark room, where only a small fire was still burning, Cinderella sat on the floor and cried. Her sadness felt heavy, like it was filling her whole heart. She did not know how long she had been crying. She only knew that everything felt unfair and painful. Then, suddenly, a soft, gentle light appeared behind her. At first, it was only a tiny glow, but it grew bigger and bigger until the whole room became bright. Cinderella turned around in surprise. Standing in front of her was a beautiful woman. Her hair was silver like the moon, and her warm eyes looked as if they understood every sadness in the world. "Cinderella," the woman said with a kind smile, "don't cry anymore. I am here to help you." Who are you?" Cinderella asked, her eyes wide. "I am your fairy godmother," the woman said softly. She reached out and wiped the tears from Cinderella's cheeks. "And tonight, you will go to the ball." Cinderella gasped. But I have nothing to wear. And how can I even—" The fairy godmother put a finger on Cinderella's lips. "Shh, leave everything to me." She lifted her magic wand and waved it gently in the air. Bright light swirled around the room like tiny stars falling from the sky. "Cinderella, bring me a pumpkin and 7 little mice." Cinderella was confused, but she did not question anything. She ran to the kitchen and brought back a big round pumpkin. Then she went to the attic and called her little mouse friends. They followed her happily, as if they knew something magical was about to happen. And then, the magic began. With one touch of the wand, the pumpkin shook, grew, glowed, and turned into a beautiful golden carriage. It was so shiny and grand that it was hard to believe it used to be a pumpkin. The 7 mice trembled in fear, but the magic light covered them too. One mouse turned into a small but strong coachman. The other 6 turned into 6 white horses with coats as bright as snow under the moon. Cinderella could not believe her eyes. This is real?" The fairy godmother smiled. "You are still missing one more thing." She touched Cinderella again with the wand. In an instant, Cinderella's old dress disappeared. Now she wore a long, shining ball gown that looked like it was made of soft light. Little sparkles covered the dress and shined with every move she made. But the most beautiful part was the shoes. 2 glass slippers, clear like morning dew, sparkled so brightly that anyone who saw them, Cinderella whispered, placing a hand on her heart, "I look like a real princess." "And tonight," the fairy godmother said, "you are the princess of the ball. But remember, when the clock strikes 12, everything will return to normal." "I understand," Cinderella nodded. She stepped into the golden carriage, and the night sky seemed to open a path just for her. The carriage rushed forward, leaving trails of light like shooting stars. When Cinderella entered the grand ballroom, everyone fell silent. The music stopped. People turned and stared at the girl, who looked like she came from a dream. Even her stepmother and stepsisters, standing nearby, opened their eyes wide in shock. On the big staircase, the prince appeared. The moment he saw Cinderella, every sound in the room disappeared. He walked down each step slowly, as if the whole world had stopped moving. The 2 stepsisters whispered, "He's coming to me." "No, he's coming to me." But the prince walked past them and stopped in front of Cinderella. "My beautiful lady," he said warmly, "may I have this first dance?" Cinderella placed her hand in his, and just like that, the ball truly began. Music filled the room. They danced among shining candles. Every eye in the ballroom followed them in wonder. Cinderella felt her heart beat fast, but for the first time, she also felt safe and happy. The prince never looked away from her. not even once. But suddenly, the sound of a clock echoed from far away. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Cinderella turned pale. "Oh no, I must go!" She pulled her hand away and ran toward the door. The prince called after her, but she was too fast. As she ran down the stairs, her glass slipper fell off, but she did not stop. When the clock struck 12, the carriage disappeared. The horses disappeared, the dress disappeared, and Cinderella was left with nothing but a beautiful dream, fading into the night. The royal ball ended in shock. When the prince ran out of the grand hall, the girl he had danced with was already gone. She had disappeared into the dark night, but on the cold stairs, there was a shining glass slipper, glowing under the moonlight. The prince picked it up with both hands, as if it were the most precious thing in the world.
No matter
how far I must go, he said with a strong voice, I will find her. The very next morning, a new royal order was announced. Every girl in the kingdom must try on this glass slipper. Whoever fits it will become the prince's wife. A huge search began, and Cinderella's heart started to beat faster with worry and hope. Royal soldiers traveled everywhere, from tiny villages to big houses and fancy estates. Long lines of girls waited outside. Everyone hoped she was the mysterious girl who danced with the prince. But the strange glass slipper did not fit anyone. Some girls pushed their feet in until they turned red. Some cried and begged for another chance. Some even tied their ankles tightly to make their feet smaller. But all of them failed. The prince did not give up. He believed that among thousands of homes, there was one girl who was truly waiting for him. When the royal carriage stopped in front of Cinderella's house, her 2 stepsisters screamed with excitement. "They're here! The prince is coming for me!" Stepmother quickly fixed their hair and dresses, telling them to stand up straight and act ladylike. But they didn't know. Cinderella was locked in the attic. Before the soldiers arrived, the stepmother had gone upstairs with the key in her hand. "Are you trying to go downstairs?" She laughed coldly. "A servant like you doesn't deserve to stand with them." The door slammed shut. Cinderella hit the door and cried, "Please, let me out. I only want to try the shoe." But the stepmother walked away without a word. Downstairs, the soldier placed the glass slipper on the table. The room became silent. The older stepsister tried first. It didn't fit. Her toes didn't even go in. The younger stepsister pushed and pushed until her foot turned red. Still not even close. Stepmother forced a smile. "Maybe their feet are swollen from walking. Haha." The soldier frowned. "Is there any other girl in this house?" Stepmother froze. No, no one else." Up in the attic, Cinderella stood by the window, trying to climb out, but it was too high. Tears fell onto the cold roof tiles. Her little mouse friends ran to her feet. Cinderella whispered, "The stepmother. She has the key in her skirt pocket." Hearing this, one tiny mouse slipped through the door crack. Downstairs, the stepmother was smiling at the soldiers when, "What is that?" She jumped as the mouse climbed up her skirt. In one quick move, the mouse grabbed the key and raced up the stairs. "Catch it!" the stepmother screamed. But it was too late. The mouse slid under the attic door and pushed the key towards Cinderella. Her hands shook as she opened the lock. She burst out of the room and ran downstairs, her heart beating wildly. When Cinderella entered the room, the stepmother froze. How did you escape?" The soldier looked surprised. "And who is she?" The stepmother tried to block Cinderella. "No, she cannot try it. She is just a..." But the soldier stopped her. "By order of the prince, every girl must try the slipper." The stepmother was pushed aside. Cinderella took a deep breath. She stepped forward. She sat down. The glass slipper sparkled in the soldier's hand. The whole room held its breath. Cinderella gently put her foot inside, and the room went silent. The slipper fit perfectly. The younger stepsister screamed, "Impossible!" The stepmother couldn't say a word. The soldier bowed deeply. "Miss, please come with us to the palace." Cinderella placed a hand on her chest. Her whole body trembled with emotion. At last, the truth had finally come to light. The whole room became completely silent. The candlelight shook gently, shining on everyone's surprised faces. Cinderella stayed in her seat. Her foot rested inside the glass slipper. It fit perfectly, as if it was made only for her. The soldier bowed deeply and said, "Miss, you are the girl the prince has been looking for." Cinderella covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes were red, and her heart felt full of relief and happiness. Her stepmother and stepsisters stood frozen. They could not believe that the girl they treated so badly for so many years was the one the prince loved most. The royal carriage carried Cinderella away from the house that once gave her only tears. But this time, the road was different. There was no darkness, no sadness. Instead, warm sunlight filled the path. Flowers waved in the breeze, and people smiled and wished her happiness. Cinderella gently touched the glass slipper on her lap and whispered, "Father, I wish you could see this moment." When the carriage stopped in front of the palace, her heart beat so fast that she took a deep breath to calm herself. Inside the grand hall, the prince was waiting. As soon as Cinderella stepped inside, the prince saw her. His eyes lit up instantly. He did not hesitate. He did not doubt. He did not look surprised. He walked straight toward her and spoke in a warm voice that touched everyone watching. "I knew it was you. From the very first moment I saw your eyes." Cinderella lowered her head, her shoulders shaking with emotion. The prince gently held her hands, warm and steady. "I searched for you because my heart knew you were the one I wanted to be with." Cinderella looked up, her eyes shining with tears. "And I hoped I would see you again." In that moment, all the pain she had suffered seemed to melt away. The prince slowly knelt down on one knee in front of everyone. "Cinderella, will you become my future queen?" The entire hall held its breath. Tears rolled down Cinderella's cheeks. But this time, they were tears of joy, not sadness. "Yes, I will," she said softly. The prince stood up and hugged her tightly as the whole palace filled with loud applause. A short time later, the royal wedding took place. The castle was decorated in pure white. Flowers bloomed along the road leading to the hall. People from all around came to see the gentle girl who once lived in sadness, now shining like a star. Cinderella wore a beautiful wedding dress and smiled brighter than ever. When the prince held her hand and said, "We will start our new life together," Cinderella knew that the dream she once thought could never come true had finally become real. And from that day on, the prince and Cinderella lived happily, with kindness and fairness. Their story spread across the kingdom as a reminder. No matter how hard life becomes, if your heart stays kind and hopeful, magic will find you at the right time. And the glass slipper, a symbol of hope and courage, was kept forever in the palace as proof of their unbreakable love. They lived happily ever after,